This is Amud Yomi, Gemara and Shabbos, Daf Tes, Amud Aleph. And we pick it up on the bottom of Ches Amud Beis, Amar Mar, as we quote the din about the Makkah and Petur that we learned, that the person is standing on the Askupa. And we said he's allowed to take from the Baal Bayis and put into the house. He's allowed to take from the Ani and put into Rosh Hashanah. But Ubelvad, what are you not allowed to do? Said the Brisa, you're not allowed to Shaloyitam mi Baal Bayis, V'noisin la'ani, me'ani v'noisin l'Baal Bayis. V'notal, v'nosan, shloshtan peturin. We said they're all potter, it's all an Isser, Dirabana, 3 lines from the bottom. We said in as much as you could take from the Baal Bayis, or you could take or give to the Ani, you cannot facilitate a complete transfer. If you're standing in the middle, take from the Baal Bayis and give to the Ani, so you're the conduit of a complete transfer all the way from the house to the street, says the Gemara, that is not allowed, and therefore you'll be potter from a chatas, not a daraisa, but it's aser dirabanan. Says the Gemara, Lema tavitiyofta dirava. There seems to be a kasha on Rava. Why? Because what does it sound like? It sounds like that if you transfer from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah via the medium going through the middle of Makom Petur, what does it sound like? It sounds like you're potter. Says the Gemara, that's a kasha on Rava. That says a maver chayfetz. Mitchilas arba l'sheivar Rosh Hashanah. You carry an item from the beginning of 4 Amos to the end of 4 Amos, even though you carried it on the top of Tesam and Aleph Derech Olav, passing it over himself, meaning higher than 10 Tfachim, meaning through a Makai Betur, said Rabbi, you're Chayiv. Said Rabbi, you're Chayiv, excuse me. Said Rabbi, you're Chayiv. Why? You went from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah via a Makom Betur. So if Rav is saying you're chayiv, l'chayra our brisa that said transferring from the house to the askupa to the street is potter, is not like Rava. Says the Gemara, no raya, hasam loy nach. And that's why Rava says you're chayiv. It's true, it went through the makayim petur, but it just passed through. It didn't stop there. Whereas in our case, it was nach, it rested in that area, and that's the reason why you are potter. We continue quoting the Brisa back from the Vav Amud Aleph, Achirim Aimrim, Askupa Mishamesh Shtei Reshuyos. The Askupa, this threshold area, functions as part of 2 Reshuyos. And the Brisa taught us. Bisman Shabbos Basuach, when the door is open, Kilifnim, it's considered part of the house, it's part of the Rosh Hashanah. Pesach Nol, when the door is closed, Kilachotz, it's considered like the street. Says the Gemara, sounds like that when the door is open, it's part of the inside, and therefore you're allowed to do what? Sounds like you're allowed to carry on this askupa. Ask the Gemara. You're allowed to carry on this askupa, on this threshold if the door is open, even without a lechi, even without any sort of vertical beam, horizontal beam, nothing. But what do you mean? When we have an entranceway of a mavoi, even within the entranceway, you can't carry in the entranceway itself without a lechi. Again, the lechi, in simple terms, obviously, we're going to have to deal with this more. But lechi, in simple terms, is a hecker that you don't come to carry further. So in as much as you're carrying inside this entranceway, but still, said Rav Chama bar Guryam Rav, you need a lechi. So why by us you're carrying seemingly also in the entranceway? You don't need a lechi. Answers the Gemara, maybe you'll say that this case of the askupa is not dalid bali dalid, and that's the reason why you don't need a lechi. It's the same case. Again, let's remind yourself that Toichav Lechi, Toichav Pesach, talking about a 3-walled cul-de-sac. We're talking about the entrance to that cul-de-sac. Now we know that you need a lechi, we know that you need a kaira to permit carrying inside the whole mavli. We're not talking about that. We're talking about carrying in the entranceway opposite that one little area over there. On that area, Rav Chama Guria taught us a chiddush. Even in that area, which would seem to be enclosed, you're still only able to carry if you put another lechi. So the question is, why is the same thing not by us? Let's take one moment to look at Rashi. Rashi, about 5 lines into the narrow lines, teaches us Teicha Pesra Mavid and Rochav Askupa. Sarlechi Achel Atirai. Shalechi Amatir Zamavai Sasmei Neged Askupa. V'Zakav Alei. V'Kasavar Aslish Tamish Neged Alechi. Elu Mechudoy Hapenimi Lifnei. Only from the inner edge and inward. Havi Heker Mechitza. And you need a heker of a mechitza. So says the Gemara, the same thing should be by us. Says the Gemara, this case of the acherim, this case that we thought is a simple threshold in front of a house, it is not. It's the askupa of a mavoi. Chetzi mekura, v'chetzi she'enai mekura. Part of it has a roof and part of it not. And the roof part is towards the inside. That's the case. So again, we had this end of the Bryce that Acheir Maimrim, Bizman Shapesach Pasuach, Bizman Shapesach Noel. We thought we're on a simple threshold at the front of the house. From there, we had a kasha. Why is this different than the case of Lechi needed by a Mavui? Answers the Gemara that our case is in reality Askupa at the entrance to the Mavui. That you have this a threshold area as you walk into the Mavui. And the story is that there's a beam on top. And that's the case that the Acherim are learning. Pesach Basuach Kilifnim, if the doors are open into the Mavui, then this threshold area, as it didn't like the Mavui itself, and you could carry Pesach no, but if it's closed, then what happens? If these doors are closed, then you're outside the Mavui for all intents and purposes. You're outside the cross beam on top of you, and therefore it's kilachot. Meaning the Gemara is answering, the whole kasha was, where's your lechi, where's your kaira? The answer is we have one. We have a kaira, we have a beam on top of us. If the doors are open, then I'm standing within that beam, then I'm allowed to carry. But if the doors are closed, now I'm without that beam, then I'm not allowed to carry. Teretz number 1. Teretz number 2, Ravashi Amar Lelim Baskupas Bayis Askinon. We're done with the house. Kon Shekira B'Shtei Kairos, and the case is that the house has 2 cross beams on top of its roof. Shein Bazu Arba, Vein Bazu Arba, neither one is 4 Tvachim, but Vein Bazu Lezu Shleisha, but there's not 3 Tvachim in between them, and therefore these 2 beams less than 4 with less than 3 in between. Videlas Be'emsan, there's a door smack in the middle of these beams. So therefore, if as was Kilifnim, and therefore why is it Kilifnim? Because now we have 2 beams with a little space in the middle. Lavon makes it as if it's closed. So therefore, for all intents and purposes, you have a roof on the area. It's an extension of your sayachid, and you're allowed to carry. But Pesach, no, when the door to the house closes, what happens? Now your 2 beams cannot be considered as if they're closed because the door smack in the between it. And therefore, when the door is closed, kalachot, and you cannot carry. So fascinating Gemara. The Brisa said something which seems so simple at the onset. No, and Pasuach, it's open, it's not. Explains the Gemara, either we're talking about the entrance to a Mavoi, or we're talking about the entrance to a house in a very unique manner with 2 beams on top and the door closing, cuts off those beams, removing the roof, and that's why you cannot carry. And we go and we conclude with the final part of that Brisa. If the threshold is 10 by 4, then Harezu Rishus La'atzma, then it is its own shus, own Rishus, and then you will not be able to carry from the house into it or into Rishus Harabim because it's its own Rishus. Says the Gemara 6 lines to the bottom, Oimer, 4 lines to the bottom, excuse me. Anytime you have 2 Rishuyas, 2 areas, an area which is 10 by 4 next to another area as such, each one is its own Rishus HaYachid, Kigoin, Amud B'Shayachid Gva Asar Rechav Arba, Asar Lekate Volel, even though you're in a Rishus HaYachid, and this pole, and this platform, and this beam is also Rishus HaYachid, you still cannot use it. Why? Because it's as if using another Rishus HaYachid, and it's Gzeira D'Rabbanan Mishum Tal, Rishus HaRabim. And then in the case of Rishus HaRabim, if there's an elevated area, 10 by 4, then that elevated area gets its din of a Rishus HaYachid. And if you're in Rishus HaRabim, then of course, you're not allowed to carry on that area, because then you're carrying from Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid. So Gzeira, we also allow you to do the same thing in a case of such an elevated, such a pole inside Rishus HaYachid as well. Pick it up from the Mishnah number Beis, B'siyata Dishmaya.